Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Now, the Australian stock market continues to be hot, which is great for making quick profits, but only if you know how. Here at Wealth Within, we know you all like it when we share stocks that you can make good profits on. So in tonight's show, we take a look at the 5 of the best oil stocks to buy in 2023. And yes, Woodside is one of them, so stay tuned for the other 4. We'll also get into Lend-Lease and many more stocks tonight. First up, we will share our hot stock tip for the week before diving into the All Ordinaries Index. So sit back and relax tonight. We'll be jam-packed as we answer your emails, take your phone calls and give you the answers to some of the important questions around the stock market. Hello and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. I'm Gillham, your host for tonight, and joining me is Janine Cox, and we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators.
And it's exciting to be here tonight, Dale, and I'm looking forward to this, and every week I look forward to it. And I'm so excited that this show is another cram-packed event, and dare I say, a bit controversial. So, Dale, we better get a move on, and it's time for our weekly hot stock tip. So how about we get straight into it?
Well, I'm glad you asked. But we're actually covering corporate travel management tonight. So on your screen, we actually got the market index site, and I've just brought that up so for us to have a little bit of a look at. And you can see here its stock ticker code is CTD. Interesting here, looking at this, it's had a 14.53% yearly return, which is calendar year, but it's up over 43% or around 40 odd percent this calendar year. Sorry, that's the annual return. Rolling annual return, I'm sorry, but over since 1 January, it's about 40 odd percent up. And you can see it's near the top end of its 52-week range. But have a look at its PE ratio, Janine, 108.09 and a dividend yield of 0.52. So what does a PE ratio like that tell you?
Well, it's either an incredible growth stock, which we used to see huge PE ratios on some of those growth stocks, or it's overvalued.
Or it's overvalued. So I'm looking at this. I mean, well, let's go and have a look at the chart now and have a look at this, because it is interesting. So when you see a stock with that kind of PE ratio, you can say it tend to be overvalued, what they would say overvalued. But
so why isn't the market selling it down then?
Not, but more analysts are suggesting this is actually a buy. So what I'm going to be looking at here, this is more of a short-term thing for me. And where's all my work? Did you take all my work off?
You're going to have to do it off the top of your head.
I'm going to have to do it off the top of my head. I actually had work on this, guys. I had a whole lot of work on it, and obviously it's gone missing now. So looking at this stock, I'm going to treat this as a short-term movement or short-term buy in this stock, and you can see how recently it's sort of pulled back below that longer term momentum and it's hit up against it. So to me, looking at this, when it's got to get through this sort of level through here before I'll be happy with it, but I'd be treating this as a short-term buy, maybe 6 to 12 months, because when you're seeing a P ratio of that, it might suggest it's overvalued, but it doesn't mean it's not going to keep going up.
Well, it adds risk,
It adds risk to you, to that. But this could be a really, really nice short-term buy, because it can move quite well.
That's such a nice move off that low.
It's a brilliant move. This isn't quite a nice, strong support level. There's a really good, strong support level just below here, which I did have marked on my charts, but obviously that didn't transfer through. But
the more interesting support levels actually are on that trough, the most recent one.
This one?
No, up higher.
Oh, that
because
one.
if you go back in history, you can see that it runs all the way across that chart. So
correct. I had quite a few support and resistance lines on the chart that I did early today to show everybody. But looking at this at the moment, you can see here how volume's a little bit more increasing on this upside, which is good. Nice gentle pullback on here, nothing too outrageous. I think it was about 19% roughly, or 20%, there you go. So it's nothing too outrageous, so nice pullback, beautiful 1, 2 movements up. I think we're going to get a third, possibly a fourth up over the next sort of 3 to 6 months, and I think don't treat it as a long-term buy and hold. That's what I'm suggesting. But when I was looking at the timing movements of this, I think we've probably got at least 6 months on this, and it could be a really, really nice upside, especially when it gets through that level of 26.34. So I think there's some good stocks. That is your all-time high back up here around that $33 mark. So there's plenty of room from that level right up to here. You can see there's like over 40% now through there. So it's not going to be, well, it's probably, if I get that back on, that's actually more than that, isn't it? It's closer to 50% to that sort of point there. So at this point in time, it's not going to be a long-term buy and hold like some of the stock. I mean, I did look at other stocks who are longer-term buy and hold. This one's a little bit more shorter, but for those who like a little bit more, I won't say risk, but if you know what I mean.
Good one.
It's pretty good. I think it's a good little buy at the moment.
Okay, fantastic.
Setting itself up to be a good little buy.
Not a good buy.
Not a buy now, and definitely not a good buy, Janine.
Okay.
So that's it for me.
Fantastic. That's it for our weekly hot stock tip. Now, if you have questions, you can call us now on 039290 9988. That's 039290 9988. If you prefer to text, send your question to the number on the screen.
Alrighty, the first caller into the show right now will get a free copy of my book. If I get the right book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So make sure you pick up your phone right now and dial 0392909988. Now, while you do that, tonight is the first Tuesday in the month, which means we take a look at the All Ordinaries Index. So let's get into the charts, Janine.
Now, I've got the All Ordinaries Index there on the screen.
Yeah.
What's interesting, Dale, I thought I'd raise, because some people may not realise that the All Ordinaries started back in the 80s, didn't it?
Well, that's when they first brought all the exchanges from around Australia, because each state had its own exchange.
But then the XJO didn't actually start until around, was it 2000 or the late 90s?
Yeah, they did it around there. They used to be the top 300 stocks. So the All Ords came in, which is 500, and the XJO came in at 200. Prior to that, it was the 300, the Australian market. So that shows you how old I am.
And
you're not allowed to tell anybody.
And our sectors started in around 2001, didn't they?
Ooh,
I think
yeah,
it was.
probably. Yeah. Was that when they brought the GICs in as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was been
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't recall that one. But look, I just thought I'd raise the XJO because I thought it might be a little bit of a point of interest to talk about, because we always discuss the All Ordinaries Index. And perhaps we can look at the difference between the XAO and the XJO. So I've got a chart of the XJO there. Now, the best way to see this is actually by doing an overlay. This is what we do as we're comparing a stock with a different index or a commodity, or like if you're trading a particular stock, it's good to actually overlay the underlying commodity or stock or index. So I'm looking at what's happening here with the All Ordinaries Index and the XJO, and as you can see, they're pretty well aligned, and you'd expect that because we're talking about the biggest stocks on our market in the top 20 or top 50.
The top 20 are a massive amount of both of those sectors, so therefore whatever they're doing, the sector, the whole market does.
But sometimes you can get a little bit of divergence between what's happening on the All Ords and what's happening on the XJO, which is really interesting.
Generally, if the big stocks aren't doing too much and you're getting movement outside the 200 into that sort of 3 to 500, that's when you get that divergence. But just to let everybody know, a lot of the things they'll see on TV and the quotes with managed funds, they're comparing themselves to the XJO, not the XAO.
That's right.
But we like to do it. So we need to tell them what you think of where the market's going, because they heard me yesterday.
Really? Well, look, I think it looks really bullish. That's my view at the moment. I haven't wanted to get too excited until the last, around about a week ago.
Yep.
This week so far it's holding up nicely, provided we don't see a pullback just yet. We just want to see it edge above that 7,700 points. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
And then I'd say it's really highly likely that it's going to go through that high there, which was back in February 2023.
Okay, I got a tough question for you. Do you think it'll challenge or beat the all-time high this year?
Oh, I think it'll go through.
You think it's going to go through it, so there you go. So by when?
I said before the end of the year.
Before the end.
Last quarter.
So I'm not going to be able to tie you down to a time and a date.
No, last quarter.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm the same as you. I keep thinking it's bullish, but then you get these bear tendencies coming into it, which is what I've been saying. So, but it is looking good. I think it's going to be more bullish for the next 2 to 4 weeks. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, thank you for that.
Before it has 1 or 2 weeks down.
All right, well, that is it for our thoughts on the All Ordinaries Index. Next, we have some great stocks to share with you, including QBE, BPT, that's Beach Petroleum, Lend-Lease, and Woodside. Now, Dale, it's time that we get into our first email.
Okay, our first email, Janine, is from Les. He says, Dear Dale and Janine, I am a new subscriber to your weekly show and have just purchased your books. Well, thank you very much for that. Recently, you had a hot tip of Lend-Lease. I bought in at $7.49 and set a stop loss of 15% below the most recent high. Seems I did that incorrectly as I got stopped out at $7.87, so a profit but not the one I was chasing. Of course, Lendlease has now again bounced back from their recent news, which caused the short correction to the low $8 mark. My question is, should I buy back in Les?
Interesting one, Les. Okay, so first of all, I've got to raise this one.
Okay,
He's bought on a stock tip, which, okay, what's your view on that?
I don't. You've said nothing. You've got to tell him what you think.
Okay, Les, it looks like I'm being put on the spot here. My comment to you, my friend, is don't follow stock tips unless you've actually done the analysis yourself. So that's my first one. And if you're not sure of what to do, one of the things you can do to just check up on Dale's analysis is grab a copy of his book and actually apply the trend lines. Is that what he said?
He just said, I bought your book.
Did he? But what did he apply though? He just read the book.
He actually bought some books. Bought my books, but he obviously bought this before he bought my books, so he hasn't read them. So that's
okay. So he's bought this before
correct.
On the stock tip.
I'm supporting you, Les. Don't you worry about it. I'm supporting Les.
But has he bought the book on the stock tip? That's what it sounded like to me.
No.
Okay.
I think he's bought the book. Well, I don't know.
No, has he bought the stock on the tip that you did, the hot tip?
Correct.
Yeah.
So yes,
okay.
So you wrapping him across the knuckles is fine.
So what you're saying is he bought the stock, you did the hot stock tip, he bought the stock and then he bought the book. Is that
correct.
The order?
Okay, now we've got it right, Les. I think she's with us now, Les.
I don't want to get you into trouble, Les.
Would you like to tell Les, being nice to him, because you wrapped him on the knuckles, would you like to tell him what you think of Lendlease now?
Look, I think it's really nice.
Okay.
And that's the first thing that I'll say. And I wouldn't get too worried about what happens with short-term movements on stocks, particularly stocks like Lendlease. So perhaps one of the things that you might not have picked up in the discussion was the volatility of a stock like this, and it can whip you in and out. So you've just got to be prepared to set a decent stop loss on it if you're going to buy a stock such as Lendlease. So just to give you a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, as Dale's going to hold me to account if I don't. So if we watch how the stock moved, the most important thing to do is to take note of when it rises, what does it tend to do, just to get an appreciation for the movements in the stock. And you can see there it's quite easily doing 20% and repeatedly so each time it rises. Now the falls are the other thing that you have to bear in mind. How fast does it fall in a couple of weeks? Well, it did around 12% in about 3 weeks there. Same sort of thing here. It's probably about 7%. So these are the sort of moves that the stock can do in 2 or 3 weeks. So that's why that gives you a good guide. Now, when you bought it, I'm not sure where it was, but it fell about 8%. Now, for some, that may indicate get out. But when you're trading big stocks like this, you need to give yourself a bit more leeway, which is why we talk about a 15% stop loss in the book. And with practice and testing stocks, you can work out the most ideal stop loss for a stock. Otherwise, you're just sort of, licking your finger and having a bit of a guess.
So his question was, should he buy into it now?
Should he buy back in?
Yes, that's what he just said.
Look, I still think it's a good opportunity right now, regardless of whether it's.
I think that's the best you're going to get from Janine Les. So, but look, we do have a caller, I believe, on the phone. Do we? Who have we got on the phone?
Have you got a caller?
Oh, sorry, we don't have somebody on the phone, do we?
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, we do have somebody on the phone. I'm sorry, I've got a bit mixed up. Who have I got on the phone?
It's James here.
Hi, James. How are you today?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Good. Where you from, mate?
I'm from Newcastle.
Awesome place. I love the surf up there. I've got plenty of friends up that way. Have you got a caller for us?
Yeah, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, mate. What's your question tonight?
So I've got a mate who does like a engineering internship pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been doing some analysis over like gas companies about like their raw data and stuff.
Yep.
And he's just been telling me like the raw data suggests that like companies that hold like large reserves of like natural gas, like BHP, Santos, statistically look really good to go up. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious if you would agree with that depending on the charts. Like.
Very good question, isn't it? So very, very good question. We did a a show on energy stocks
yeah.
just recently, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. So we did have quite a few. Well, both of us have been picking energy as a sector to move up for this year, or for the rest of this year into next year anyway, because it has been pretty hard hit that area. Have you got anything else you want to ask?
First of all, James, was it really your friend that did the research, or was it yourself?
No. It was my mate. Just because he was doing it through the internship, because he was doing it through Arsenal Hydro.
Okay, so he thinks based on his research that there's some good opportunities to buy the gas stocks. Did he say which ones?
He was looking at BHP in particular.
That's his top pick, is it?
Yes.
Okay,
at the moment.
So with BHP's now, its focus is in different areas, isn't it? So I would actually suggest that you look at BHP's a different kettle of fish, because it's got its fingers in so many pies that one particular area, except for say iron ore, doesn't necessarily influence it. In terms of the share price. So if iron ore takes off, then a stock like BHP is going to be affected significantly by it. So that's one of the things that you should do, is always go and have a look at the breakdown in the company's report in terms of what its revenue streams are. That's one of the things he could look at, to see how much influence a particular commodity like gas or iron ore is going to have on the bottom line of a company. And then if he thinks that gas is the next big thing and that's the area to watch, which are the companies that have the most gas? Obviously, like Woodside, for example, has a lot of gas. So perhaps, and one of the ways you can look at the influence of this is to go and have a look at a chart of gas. So you'll look at the gas prices, a graph of the gas prices, if you can get that, and then have a look at some of the biggest gas stocks to see how their price moves with or against the gas prices. So that's just my tip for your mate, because if he's an engineer, I know how they think, so it's often a deep dive into a lot of detail. So there you go.
It's also a scary place to be.
Scary place to be.
Engineer's mind's a scary place to be. Cool.
All
Thanks,
right.
James, for your call.
And we're going to get into some energy stocks, more so about oil, but some of those companies have gas as well, so we'll talk about that soon. All right, now before we get into some more great stocks, thanks very much for your call. It's your time to support the show by hitting that subscribe button on YouTube, and whilst you're there, remember to hit that like button, as it helps others just like you to find our content. Importantly, it shows your appreciation to the team who put a lot of work into producing this show.
Now remember, you can grab a free copy of my best-selling book, How to Beat the Managed Funds by 20%, for free. All you got to do is pay the shipping. Just head over to wealthwithin.com.au and click the link on the homepage. Now it's time we get into our next question, Janine. Now we have a question from Gerard, and Gerard says, "Hi Janine and Dale, hope you had a lovely weekend." Yes, we did. A beautiful weather in Melbourne. Which website would you recommend verifying the top 5, top 10 and top 20 etc. stocks? Please, for info, I use the CommSec platform. I also would appreciate to have your thoughts on SPDR, which is the Dow Jones Global Real Estate ESG Fund. It has a stock ticker code of DJRE. Please, I haven't bought any and would appreciate it if you could let me know if I can buy it now. Please, kind regards, Gerard. So what do you reckon? Market Source is his easy spot?
Oh, I think you're probably right.
Get the top 20, 50, 100? Yep, marketsource.com. Is it .com.au or just .com?
.com.
The website I just showed earlier when I talked about the hot stock, same website.
Anyway,
really
now
easy.
You're going into detail. Let's go and have a look at the chart.
Aren't I allowed to do that?
Okay, the code is DJRE.
DJRE.
Okay, we're looking at this on the chart. We can see that some of these funds are quite weird, aren't they? You think you're investing in a fund and it's going to be much more defensive than, say, individual stocks. But then look at what happened during COVID on this particular one.
We'll show people on it.
Well, they can have a look at. They're looking at it on the screen.
You've got to show them. You've got to bring the chart up.
So, so if we actually look at the range of the decline,
isn't it?
It's 40%. So we know that our market fell 40%. So it really wasn't necessarily any more immune, because it depends on the scope of stocks that are in it. But sometimes people have that perception that they're going to be, I guess, protected by being in a fund.
Sometimes they do, but you don't know. To me, this is a very specific fund. We're talking about the Dow Jones Real Estate Fund, and it's got ESG on the end of it. I'm not exactly sure why it's got that, but it's the Dow Jones. It's an ETF. It's listed on the Australian market. It's standard. I forget who is it. the ETF manager on this one. I can't remember the name now. I've gone blank in my old age, Janine.
Right.
But there might be a reason why Gerard's interested, and he may have read some things about what's going on in the US in the real estate sector. Maybe this will benefit from it. So there could be some fundamental reasons behind it. But really, when you look at this holding, and if you go onto the chart, if you bought this back in 2015, you're still sitting on the same money.
Or in a loss.
So, or in a slight loss at the moment. So you've got to buy it at the right time, because you can see these big moves.
We should have a trend line down there.
Well, you might have a trend line down there, but there's a 46%
And then it's
move
come all the
through
way
there.
back down again.
And then it's come all the way back down again, and it's fallen another nearly 30% there. So, look, at the moment, I think it looks like it's finding some support.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks like it's almost ready.
It's
Not
almost
yet.
ready. It could be a nice little buy. But I would strongly ask you, Gerard, just to make sure you're not just buying it on a tip or something like that. Make sure you do your research into what it's investing in. So go and read all the fine print on the ETF. So you go and visit their website, pull up all the information on that, look at what they invest in, do a little bit of research around that to decide whether that's the sector is going to start to move over in the US, and then you might be in the right timing to buy a nice little ETF there. But that's it. All I'm going to talk about.
Very
you
good.
Want to add anything?
Property stocks or ETF is a really good way to get exposure to the property market and the potential boom that's coming. All right then, Dale, it's time that we get into the topic for tonight. And before we do, I'd like to share a quote by Dan Dicker, energy markets expert, commodity trader, who said, "Oil is a lousy investment because it isn't an investment. It's just a bet, and it's a bet with a ticking time bomb attached to it." Oh, don't you love that quote?
Wow. What does he mean by that?
A ticking time bomb. I was thinking straight away that the COVID situation was a really interesting situation because people got caught out.
Well, they did.
And I think that's what he was referring to,
do with
because,
oil?
well, imagine that you got stuck and you had to take, that you, as a trader, that you actually had to take delivery of oil on the physical market.
Well, that's true too, and I know that oil had a negative, went into the negative,
It did.
So that during COVID.
So you're having to pay someone to take it.
That's an abnormal situation. It wasn't. It was an event-driven crash.
But the history of oil it's a very volatile road, the price history of oil. So it can easily happen.
Okay.
Maybe not to the same extent as COVID.
I'm not going to argue with you because I'll probably lose.
Now, I know oil is a bit controversial, but we're here to handle the tough topics on this show. And tonight is about whether you should invest in the best oil stocks. First up, we're going to take a look at oil prices. Oil fell close to 50% from 2022 highs, and of course, we will share our view on the stocks. Let me ask you, Dale, should investors considering oil stocks, should they be considering it, and how important is it that they actually buy now, or should they buy now?
That's top secret.
Really?
If I tell you, I might have to kill you, and I don't want to do that, as I'd really like having you around.
Okay. Now, why didn't I anticipate that answer?
All right then. Okay. Yes, and yes. As you said, oil fell by around 50% from its highs, and that's really got to ring some bells, and it does with me. And when something's fallen that much, I get excited.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. The major benchmarks for Australia have turned back up nicely in recent weeks, and we will take a look at the oil price along with the best oil stocks. The important question, besides which stocks to buy, is around the whole ethical dilemma with investing in oil. What do you think of that, the ethical side of it?
I don't have an ethical dilemma in it.
Okay, so you think that people should forget about the, I guess, ethical side of pulling something out of the ground. It's a finite resource, but also that we're burning it, and there's a whole argument around the climate science.
Well, there could be an argument for the next 2 decades on all that, can't they? I mean, right now that's what we've got. So we are moving.
Look, I've always wondered, apart from the climate science, I'm really struggling with the words tonight, but I was always wondering whether, by the time you continue to pull stuff out of the Earth's crust, is there a point at which we start seeing collapses of the Earth?
I could think about it. To me, I don't like the whole idea of us pulling stuff out of the ground too, because there's big air bubbles underneath the ground, but what do they fill them up with?
Yeah, so they pull something out of one side of the planet and then a hole develops in the other.
To me, it's BHP, whatever else. What is ethical is different to every single person. What's sustainable and what's good governance, because it's about everybody's own values around all of that. I don't, to me, it's about making money and on the stock market and buying good stocks, making money. And all companies are trying to be much better corporate citizens. All companies are trying to be a little bit more environmental, sustainable, and government doing all of that now. So, and it's going to be a slow movement from, oil and gas and those
But if
fossil
I don't like
fuels.
tobacco companies because I think it's wrong, if I don't like oil because I think it's wrong,
I don't have
then
a problem.
don't buy it.
Don't have a problem. If you don't want to buy them, don't buy them.
We know oil prices rose dramatically in 2021 and fell in 2022 due to supply issues. Let's take a look at what the oil industry have said about that.
Now, this is an article from In the Garden back in 2022, and it said global oil and gas market prices have tumbled since reaching a peak last year. Now, the global oil price averaged $76.6 a barrel in the last quarter, down from an average of about $112 per barrel in the second quarter of last year, as Russia's attack on Ukraine intensified. So, whoa.
Yeah, so we know that the Ukraine war has been one of the catalysts affecting price volatility, but oil has always been volatile, and we'll share a chart to explain that shortly.
Do you actually want to share this comment? It was on the market index. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So in May, Citigroup's global head of commodities research, Ed Moore, said crude oil may not climb beyond $82 per barrel for the rest of the year, and is not ruling out year-end price, a price below, $80 per barrel. So he's saying that it could actually go lower.
Yeah, well, anyone can make a forecast, Janine, but how often do they write about oil?
Well, that's true. I mean, how often do they write about any forecast? We often see
Maybe 50%.
Yeah, something come out to change the whole trajectory of that. But I guess OPEC's been fairly, open about where they're headed with things, if I can say that, in terms of the production.
But what is being open about it too? I mean, the people that have the oil, they want to control the price. So is that being open or not?
Well, they have been controlling the price, and they tell the market what they're going to do. So I guess from that point of view, in one sense, you'd think it'd be much easier to be trading oil than it really is, or trading the oil-related stocks, because this information's coming out all the time, and they're changing things. So they're pulling the levers at times in the market.
Well, they do, and that's the thing, is we need to get away from that kind of reliance. So I'm 100% behind getting away from reliance. But how do we do that? Because even with sustainables, we're going to be reliant on somebody managing that and controlling the prices of those.
That's right.
Because it's all supply and demand. If they restrict supply, then price going to go up.
So true.
Let's go off the grid, Janine.
Yeah. It's so confusing for investors at times to know what's going on. We know that OPEC, the organisation for the petroleum exporting countries, is planning cuts to production, or they have been cutting. And so let's take a look at a forecast for consumption. On your screen is a graph I took from an article on the US Energy and Information Administration website showing current and forecast global consumption. We can see how it peaked after COVID in 2021 and consumption has fallen dramatically. You can see the pink areas in the middle, which represent Indian and Chinese consumption, rising relative to a benign situation in the rest of the world. So this may be a bottom in the cycle.
All right, well, the article with the graph reads, we expect the production cuts and rising demand to increase prices going forward. Now, Brent crude oil spot prices in our forecast rises to $81 per barrel by the end of this year, and an average of $84 per barrel next year. Now, further, most of the expected liquid fuels demanding growth is in non-OECD Asia, led by China and India, the big countries, isn't it? And this is interesting. Now, global oil inventories will transition from inventory builds on average during the first half of 2023 to consistent inventory draws until the fourth quarter of 2024. Well,
Which is interesting, isn't it?
Well, it is interesting, but that's not significant growth. So why are we really talking about oil stock when it's going to be more flat, if that makes sense?
Do you want an argument?
Well, I'd lose. And even if I win the market, I'm still going to lose. So I'm in a lose situation. And then people watching this will probably hammer me on the comment section because I've argued with you.
Great. We could agree on something then. Let's settle this fairly. I'm a fair person, and we'll go to the charts.
All right, I'm happy. Go to the charts. What have you got?
Okay, so we've got crude oil. This is Brent
That's Brent crude.
Yep. Now,
Yep.
what this is showing is
So why didn't you show light sweet crude?
well, I've got that as well, but that's for after the break for our talking
Oh,
off.
so shut my mouth, Dale.
Well, that's okay. You can
All right,
say it.
Bye.
It's not a dirty word.
Okay.
All right, so let's have a look at the chart here. So we can see that this is what's happened with crude oil over time, and you can see how volatile it's been. This is not a whole history, of course, so there's a lot more data that you could analyse, but I just thought it was interesting to show this particular chart because this is the pullback that we saw during the global financial crisis, the
Massive
77% fall.
Yep.
So when you've got something that can be that volatile, you know you can make money out of it.
Oh, yeah.
But you just have to be mindful that you don't sit and hold oil stocks. These are things that have to be traded. So again, back in June 2014, there was a big plunge over a number of weeks. There's another 60% fall. And let's just have a look at what happened during COVID. So we'll take that.
Monthly chart.
This is a monthly chart.
Okay.
You can tell them that.
I'm just trying to whisper it to you.
Okay. So look at the order. So COVID showed us around a 77% fall. So did the GFC. We've had, this is really nice actually, the way that this is pulled
That's a
back.
nice orderly pullback, isn't it?
You know, when you're looking at this decline, this is a long-term decline into COVID. And at the time, we thought, before that, in 2015, 16, we thought that was potentially the bottom and we were on a big bull run from there. So if it wasn't for COVID sort of derailed it for a while. However, now it actually looks bullish. There's a lot of commentary talking about how prices are going to be down for longer, but
I reckon
right
this is
now
going to shoot right
it looks
up.
like it's going to take off. So, so I talked before about the pullback, and we were at about a 50% fall. But if you look at where the price held up really well back in 2010 and 2014, I know that metrics were different back then, but it just almost looks like we're going back up to that sort of level again. Now, we got Dan Dicker, who's an analyst, and he used to be a fund manager and trader.
Okay.
And he is actually suggesting that prices will be up in double digits. So
Triple digits, you mean?
triple digits. So what does that mean even in itself? You know, looking at the price of this,
Well, triple digits could be 999.
we can see it getting back to $100 quite easily, and possibly up to around this $110. So stay tuned on that one. But so far this month, that's a really strong the move.
Very
if it
nice
closes
move.
high, then for July, which it has actually, but if we keep going up this month, then we're more or less going to be headed into that zone, I'd say.
It looks very nice, doesn't it? And I don't discount what you're saying. I think
So where would we change our view? What price, or what would it have to do for us to change our view?
Are you going to tell us? 'Cause
I'm
that's in my-
challenging you.
No, that's in my secret stuff.
Oh, goodness me, it's painful, isn't it? Can I just say it then? So, all right, let's actually see. It'll have to fall about 12%, which is not very far, but it's sort of around this $73 mark per barrel. If it goes below that point, then we know that it's more likely on a going to continue the overall downward trend.
I don't think that's going to happen though. I
Looks
really don't.
interesting, doesn't it?
So we're going to be looking at some stocks now, are we? Or what are we going to be doing?
Are we? We've shared our view on oil, and there's more on the matter in our bonus content for Talking Wealth viewers after the break, as we said earlier. Now, Dale, this is what everyone has been waiting for, and as you were just alluding to, let's get into the charts and look at the stocks.
Cool, I can hardly wait for this. What have we got?
Okay, so we know that we've got Santos. That's a given. We're going to talk about Santos now. Santos market capitalisation is $26 billion. It's a low-cost producer of oil and gas. So this was James was the young guy that called in earlier.
Correct. Yeah.
So thank you very much for your call, James. So this is actually definitely one of the candidates on your mate's list as a gas stock. And you can see how recently, if I look at the right-hand side of the chart there and just expand that up, this thing has been going sideways since 2021. It's done nothing all that time, but now we're starting to see a little bit of a lift up. It's not confirmed yet. There's still a bit of resistance just around about $8, but But it looks really nice, I'd say, right now.
It looks awesome right now.
I just want to go back to the long-term picture on the chart there before we move on, just looking at the short term. But you can see the sort of sideways moves that some of these stocks can get caught in, and it corresponded to what we saw in the oil price. Not exactly, but it's very similar over time. The fact that, is it a sideways move or is it up? We know that the oil price actually pulled back further than what Santos has recently, which is good. That's a positive.
But you'd expect that because this is a stock and it's oil and gas, not just oil.
That's right, not just oil.
So it's diversifying a little bit. Not as much as what BHP does, but...
Yeah, look, I mean, some of the strongest levels we can see on this stock are across here where those highs are, and then we've got a bit more up at around $11.30. So I'd say that the forecast for this is probably pretty good.
I think it is too. It's probably... would you wait for it to get through that sort of $9 area before you bought it?
I'd have to kill you if I tell you the answer.
Okay, you're not telling
Using
anybody.
your words?
I think it'd be awesome if it got through that $9 area, so I'm backing it from that point.
Okay, so
How's that?
That's great. So if it fell below these lows here back in
it.
June, then I would say it's more likely to head the other way. So just be mindful of, always look for the upside and that downside as well. Now we're going into the next stock and we're looking at Beach Energy, which is another really popular one. This is definitely a trader's stock.
Yes,
not
very
something
much so.
that, I mean, all the energy stocks are traders' stocks.
Correct.
However, this one has a higher level of volatility, and so
A lot
should
of
be
traders
respected
like
in
it
that way.
because it's a smaller price.
Yeah, I like this particular stock, not because it's a smaller price. I like it because of the...
But I know a lot. I know that, but a lot of people think because the price is lower, they're going to make a lot more money out of it.
Well, that's not true.
Well, I know that, but they don't listen to your wise words of wisdom.
Or yours. Well, look, I mean, they can make some good money on this share, but they can lose it pretty quick as well. So let's just get an idea of what that means looking at this stock to understand its personality. So you can see this move down here. It was a 50% fall. That was in 2014. What happened after that? Another one, 70%. So this is why you just cannot hold on to these types of shares sideways since 2020. It's done nothing. So all that time, nearly 3 years of no activity. But as Dale was saying before, because of the volatility in that 3-year sideways move, you probably had some really good short-term opportunities over 3 or 4 weeks to make some really good money as it was rising and falling. I would say that it started to make a move already. There's this really nice little pattern at the bottom there that's formed. Yep. Dale's just signalling to me to expand the chart for you so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So we can see that there's a really nice pattern. Now, in our diploma course, we cover a lot of this these different shapes and forms which can occur on charts, which is so fascinating to get into and understand. And we teach you how to master that. You can see here that stocks have, this stock has jumped out. They're 4 weeks up so far, a really nice move last week. I think it looks pretty good. You just need to make sure that you do your analysis to understand the upside opportunity and the downside.
I think I'd wait for it to pull back a little bit for a couple of weeks and then try and pick it up on the flip side.
Okay, fantastic. So you're saying because it's done so many weeks up in a row, just let it unfold and wait?
I think some of the air's got to come out of its tyres, so to speak, just to slow it down a little bit and then come back. Because sometimes you'll see that it'll come back and test a little bit and then it'll go off again. So I think it's looking good at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's look at the next one. This one's Ampol. So it used to be Caltex, which used to be a favourite stock of ours. Yeah, until it became Ampol, and through COVID's really messed it up as well. But look, I think that this stock will have its day again at some point, and we'd be expecting it to eventually break through these highs, these all-time highs, but it's trying to push up right now, but it's still struggling. I still think it might trade within the range of last month's bar before it eventually moves up. But it's a $7.89 billion company involved in transporting of the fuels. I think it's involved in the marketing side of things as well.
Yeah.
But it's more about, whether you think that this is a good stock to trade, and I don't think it's for everyone.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's for everyone either because it is quite volatile, isn't it? But it is looking good because it will break out of those levels at some stage.
Yeah, so it's understanding the personality again. I mean, it rises and it has these swift falls. It's just very volatile, isn't it? And then some consolidation and opportunity, but it's just not going anywhere. So that's the thing. It really needs to make a clear break up, preferably above this high here, to show that it's actually going to rise.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it finishes this week, because obviously last week, if it opened, it really pushed up and then came right back down and closed on its low. So after that big week, the prior week, but see whether it keeps pushing on or whether it just slows a little bit.
Yeah, because it's not unusual for it to see it go up for 1 week and then to reverse again, isn't it?
Correct. No. But again, it's a trading stock, this one, and I wouldn't necessarily put it on my buy and hold list.
No, not buy and hold, but you can make some really good gains on it. So if we have a look at these runs, anything that has this sort of repetition of these movements, look at that, 35, 35, you can't get better than that. If you start to see some of these big moves, this was 60% out of that COVID low, and then the next rise up here, we've got around 20 odd percent. If stocks, as we showed, I think it was last week, didn't we? We're looking at how far stocks could rise.
Yeah, we're making 20% gains. Yeah.
I mean, if you can see stocks that are making these sort of gains, 20 or 30% in these moves, then you can make some good money out of that. So it's just about getting the right entry rules.
It is, and at the moment when we're seeing this stock, it's moved up quite strongly here through here. So if you're looking at it and you can see that very, very strong move, then the buyers continue to try and push it up, but then you've got profit taking coming through in here. So we need to just be careful. This is only 2 days of the week so far, just Monday and Tuesday. So it'll be interesting to see whether it pushes on this week or it comes back again. It'd be nice to see it just ease off for 1 or 2 weeks and then start to move back up again. I think that would be a perfect time for this stock. And I think it'd be nice sort of 10, 20, 30% gains out of that.
Okay.
In the short term,
Now,
but I do like it.
Viva Energy Group is a smaller company. We've got $4.9 billion, energy company, and supplies a quarter of the country's liquid fuel.
Oh, wow.
What a beautiful trend for an energy-related stock. I just think it's got that nice volatility of these energy stocks, the up and down moves, but it actually has trended up really well. So I just think there's so many opportunities along that rise to get in. Now it's a question of whether it's going to fall, because we're not sure just yet, but it has been finding support. I'll put a trend line up underneath that. It's just beautiful, isn't it, how it just kept moving up there. So because it's respecting that line, you'd think it's going to continue to do that and continue to trundle up until it tells us otherwise by breaking the line.
Most definitely.
Again, that's a really nice one. So far, before we get to the last one, do you prefer, which stock do you prefer, Santos, Beach, ALD or VEA?
The one you haven't shown me yet. Santos.
I wasn't expecting
If I had
that.
to pick one, Santos, how's that?
Okay,
I
great.
mean, this looks really nice. This really does. It just trends well. And I mean, why I brought up the monthly chart is a lot of people discount the monthly chart, but this could be a better chart to trade on a stock like this.
Good point.
Just using the monthly chart, easier and better.
And you're able to stay in longer.
And you're able to stay in longer, so don't discount that anyway. But have another one?
Yes.
Woodside
is the next one. Market capitalisation of $72.5 billion.
Huge.
Oil and gas company involved in hydrocarbon exploration, evaluation, development, production and marketing. So a lot of things going on there at Woodside. It is at an important level.
What's hydrocarbon?
Hydrocarbon?
Yeah. You don't know either, do you?
I know the chemical symbol for it, but I'm not going to get into that side of it right here on the show.
That's a polite way of saying I didn't research that, so it does put me in it.
Can we just get on with talking about Woodside? All right, so here you go. We've had a number of peaks here. So the first one was March 2022, June 2022, September 2022. We've got November 2022. So all of these peaks are around $35 to $38. It's been stuck in this sideways move. So given how many weeks up we've seen on Woodside, do you think it's likely to have a temporary pullback?
Yes.
Okay. And do you think it'll be as volatile as the ones we've seen before, or do you think it'll be more gradual?
I think it'll be more gradual, this one. I think we've seen enough volatility for short term. It needs to have a bit more of a sustained move. And I think we might just get a bit of a short-term move down and then take off again. I think, what we're actually seeing here is quite a volatile time sort of during COVID, but I think we're starting to see some of that volatility go out of our market, and we're starting to see a little bit more, especially the more the All Ords starts to move on. I think we're going to get some more sustained moves on here, but I think, we might see 1 week down on here, maybe 2, and then move up. And I think that's the same with a lot of the stocks we're seeing at the moment. they've taken off
Yeah.
a bit. They need to ease down a little bit, and then they'll take off again for the rest of the year.
Yep, that'd be nice to see it. I was really curious as to what's happened with volume in the last year. It's just much lower than what it was in the prior year. All right, well,
Okay, so that is it on our topic for tonight. Now, if you are watching us on YouTube and interested in building your wealth, then it just makes sense to subscribe to talkingwealth.com, as you'll get access to hundreds of interviews with trusted experts from around the globe that will help you get more wealth into your life. So head over and claim your free 7-day trial by visiting talkingwealth.com. Now, Janine, before we get into more stocks, I think it's time to get into our favourite segment, which has all of us saying, what the?
okay, Dale, this week's What The is really thought-provoking. On your screen now is a video clip from Sky News which read, "Digital currencies promote control and lack of freedom." Take a look under the title. It says, "Cash equals freedom, digital currency equals tyranny."
What the?
Yeah, I know. Freedom, what does that mean anyway? And people can spend cash without Big Brother knowing what we are spending it on. Criminals have been using other forms of currency since goodness knows how long to do their dealing. So is this about cryptos being bad, or is this about something else and designed to create more fear?
I take it as like cash in your wallet. Like how often do you go spending cash in your wallet? I don't think it's a go against crypto, but I think it's more of saying with a cashless society, because about 80% of the money transferring around the globe is zeros and ones. It's all electronic.
Yeah, so what you're saying is cash is going out slowly.
Yeah, if I got $50 in my wallet and I go to a shop and I buy something and I hand it to the retailer, they can give me some change. The banks don't make money out of that. But if I tap my mobile phone, or I tap my watch, or I tap a card, the banks make money. And so the banks really want cashless society because they make so much more money out of it. That's where they're making bucket loads of money. And the retailers, they're charging you 2% because they're getting charged by the fees.
So why haven't governments really gone that way? Because if you think about it from a taxation point of view, there's a lot of money that goes to places where it's not being taxed.
Correct, and that's where people with market stalls and other things that in traditional times traditionally would get paid in cash, they may not record all their income in. So that's what I took it as. Their freedoms are, if everything's cashless and you've got to tap these little square white boxes at markets, and you don't pay somebody with cash, then the government reduces your freedom and they know where you're spending all your money, and then they can use all of that data to market against you like Google does.
But to me it was more about cryptos and going the digital currency way.
Well, it could be a bit that
rather
too.
than having cash. It's about, well, we don't want to, because cryptos cause so many problems and it allows criminals to get away with whatever they do. But I mean, my point was the fact that you haven't been able to stop that with gold and different currencies for goodness knows how long.
We haven't stopped it with cash either. How often do you see the drug halls where they pull out millions of dollars of cash out of a wall or somewhere? It happens every week. You're seeing that. So having cash or not having cash hasn't changed all that.
But all the blockchain should help that because it creates a digital footprint.
Correct, it does. But then if the government goes in to regulate it, does that then allow them to investigate that footprint to see where your money is? The reason why cryptos exploded because people could put money in there and nobody knew who owned it, and they didn't know when the transaction was. So people felt that they had total control and total freedom over their money to build their wealth and not necessarily pay tax. As long as the governments are regulating, we'll always try and work out ways of getting around it all.
True.
Won't we? So
that's so true. So look, who thinks that crypto or digital currencies are tyranny? I don't think that
I wouldn't say cryptocurrencies. I'm thinking what the article's talking about is the government and the banks push for a cashless society. That's tyranny. We should be able to have the choice of having cash under the bed if we wanted to do that. So that's really what I think it is.
Okay,
so
great.
Bring back the cash and go and spend it at your local retailers.
Yeah,
that's
tell us
it.
your view. Make sure you comment on that.
Absolutely. Put your comments down. But thanks, Janine, for your What The segment. Now it's your time to call us on 92909988. That's 03 92909988, or you can text your question to the number on your screen. So make sure you pick up your phone now. Janine really does want to have a chat with you. The numbers are on your screen.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome. Call into the show, it'd be great. We look forward to chatting with you, but you can send a text if you're chicken. But come on, call into the show. We will get into the next email in the meantime. This next email is from Angelo. Hey legends, hoping this makes it in time for the show tonight. Well, you made it, Angelo, but would like your insight into QBE. I took a quick look into its history and found that in the lead up to a recession, it has done quite well with higher interest rates equaling higher premiums when passed on to the consumer. So considering the medium-term growth potential as it has traded through an important $15 level and held above for the past few weeks, there is currently an uptrend line on the weekly chart that would supply a tighter stop loss and protect capital. Good you thinking about all of that. I'm about to hit the green button on the advanced course. Having finished the diploma earlier this year, I can confirm that within 3 months of graduating the diploma, I've paid off the course, so thank you and the training team for unlocking that potential in me. Thanks, Angelo.
Oh, well
and
done,
I
Angelo.
do hope that you celebrated. Do you know how many people I speak to on the phone over time who don't actually celebrate the fact they graduated? Make it a landmark thing, Angelo.
Crack a bottle of wine or something, or pop the cork on a champagne bottle.
Why does it have to be alcohol anyway?
Why not?
What about a cup of tea?
Why not alcohol?
Jeez, I'm not going to win an argument on this one. I'm going to let it go. All right, shall we get into QBE?
QBE. So he said there's an uptrend line on it. It's looking pretty good. He's liking the look of it. He's got some fundamental reasoning behind it. The only challenge I have is it's an insurance stock. And you look at look at this.
You guys don't like the insurance stocks.
I hate the insurance stocks because they can just do anything. I mean, we've seen so many natural disasters and all that sort of stuff. But you can see there, it looks pretty solid on that sort of thing. So having an uptrend line underneath the stock, as I was telling everybody, the Talking Well subscribers who watch my market report every Monday, I'm saying that's really safe place to buy a stock if it's already got an established trend underneath it and you've got a trend line underneath it. But it is clearing all of this sideways mess at the moment, which makes it really good.
Or does that mean it'll come back into it?
It's possible, but it is looking really, really good at the moment. I think, Angelo's on a bit of a winner here. It does look nice, but it can trend well, but it hasn't done that for such a long time. Through here, just a beautiful stock to own. Obviously, the GFC, the September 11th hit it through here. That was actually September 11th. I remember seeing all that happening. And then the beautiful run up, but sort of since then it hasn't been as nice. So maybe
there's an important level coming up, so it'll be interesting to see if when it hits that level it's going to turn down. It's not far away.
It could be far away, but I'm sure Angelo's done his work. Looking nice, he's got all the rules around it, and I do like it. So well done, Angelo.
Well done.
All right, we do have a text now at the moment. Janine, I believe this one is from Jesh, I think, who says, hi Dale and Janine, could you please look at SDR? I bought at $3.80 with a stop loss per my rules. Now looking medium to long term, I see heavy resistance at $4.30. Thanks, Brijesh. That's how you say it. I'm sorry I didn't say your name properly the first time, Brijesh.
Now I really like his choice here. Look at this, it's just taken off like a rocket. Looks fantastic. It is at an important level of resistance, somewhere around the $4.40 mark. So it may mean after having such a big week up last week that it's going to slow down a bit. So let's just expand that out. And the reason I'm looking at the weekly chart is given that there's not a lot of history on this stock.
Wow.
So SiteMinder, which is an interesting name, but it looks fantastic though. This is the daily chart, just to see that gap when it's gapped up and made that huge rise. Now this can happen in reporting season. We can often see these sorts of moves occur in reporting season. Sometimes that sort of move can also be when a stock's announcements happen and there's a takeover. You can sometimes see a gap up like that, but I'd say it's more likely reporting season in this case. But
it's interesting how it's moved up to that sort of $4.30 up around that same high. I mean, that's $4.33. That this week has hit $4.34. But if we expand that out, I mean, we're on a daily chart, so had that big gap up last Friday. Monday it opened, didn't sort of get through it, $4.30 high, $4.30 high, turned around and closed lower. Today it opened, pushed up, but came right back down here again, so it's closed at $4.26.
But what sort of volumes are we talking? So like the
But
volume
huge
last
volume,
3
yeah.
weeks, yeah, but what was it before that? So what's a typical volume?
Well, volume's
daily?
quite low through here, or low-ish, and we've had a big through here. But look at today's volume, how low it is compared to
Yes.
the previous 2 days. So you'd want to see it keep moving up. Otherwise, if you see a down bar and you see volume rising, then it could become coming back to slow up this, to close up that sort of gap on it. So I'd just be a little bit cautious, mainly because it's really right near that high. So
Yeah, I
do you want to have another look at the weekly chart, or if you
Look, I don't
finish
think
with
there's
this at the
really
moment?
any need to. I just think it looks fantastic. May come back and fill that gap like Dale's saying, but
Okay.
short-term resistance, but depends on the stop loss he's got as to whether he'll be able to stay in it.
I am sure he's happy with your answer, or that they are happy with your answer, because
Now, guess what?
Sorry, what?
Guess what? I'm going to interrupt you. We've got a caller on the line.
Okay.
And it's Yas. G'day, Yas. How are you this evening?
Hi, Janine. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. It's lovely that you call in regularly. We're not so lonely because Yas calls in.
Yeah, I enjoy watching the show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you,
what's your
sir.
stock for tonight?
I know Dale stock tip a few weeks ago. It was Paladin PDM, and I was
Paladin.
looking at Bannerman.
BMN. Okay, so he looked at Paladin when you talked about that. Now he's looking at another stock.
Okay,
Bannerman
so
Energy.
It looks very similar to Paladin.
does it?
Yeah, monthly trend line up through the bottom there, and it looks like it's starting to break away.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
look-
you're looking to buy this stock because you don't own it yet?
Yeah, no, I'm not in it, but I'm just thinking if I should do more work on it or not.
Okay, have you done any fundamental research on it at all yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay, no, that's fine. That
Just
helps
like
us.
the way the chart looks.
He loves asking those questions. Why can't he just stick to the chart? Yes.
Because I want
Can
to
we just
make
go to the
sure.
charts, Janine?
He's just putting you on the spot, isn't he?
He's just told you to look at the charts. He's giving
Come
you
on.
he's giving you the instructions.
All
now.
right, let's look at the chart. Yes. Come on.
Maybe Yash should just do the show with you, and I'll just go and have a cup of tea.
Come on, yes, come in. All right.
No, it was good.
Yeah, let's
Thanks,
have a
Yash,
look
for
at this.
calling in.
Yeah, thanks, yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, now I just think this looks lovely. Have a look at that. We can see there the trend line runs all the way into the bottom there, which is just beautiful.
Yep.
And it does tend to trade sideways for a certain amount of time before it drops away
It
or
does look
rises.
nice, doesn't it?
But this little consolidation here is nice, isn't it?
That looks really nice.
Just want to have a look at the daily chart, given the liquidity of this sort of share. It's really fluffed around and what was making a lower low here, and then it's pushed up again, hasn't been able to break through that short-term peak there, and then what was that? I wonder if that's some sort of news, but it's just strange how it's been pushed down. And I often wonder with these smaller stocks, because they can be prone to some of this algo trading and manipulation getting
Yes.
moved around.
Can
and
be.
then you see the following day this move up again. So
Well, it's only 200,000-300 odd thousand shares traded on the week, isn't it? Something
yeah.
like,
but that's a really beautiful little setup, isn't it?
I do like it, and I think Yas he's got the skills to be able to trade this, and I'm sure he's got his money management there. But I wouldn't mind just seeing some of the fundamentals, because that will determine whether it's something that's a little bit more of a sustained push,
Yep.
or whether there'll just be a short term.
Yes, he's listened to you. You know, you've said I don't care what the stock does; it's just what the chart says.
I know,
so
but he's
just doing
wise
that.
in listening to me. He's very
right.
wise.
That's all we have on BME. Thank you so much for calling in. You've made my night. We hope you enjoyed our show on YouTube. Show your support for us now on YouTube. This means comment below this video, because we'd love to hear your favourite part of the show. Also, show your support and give us a big thumbs up, and make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you know when we go live. For those watching on Talking Wealth, stay tuned for the bonus content we promised.
In next week's show, we get into a growth area. Now, with copper prices set to rise 50%, we'll share the best copper stocks for the second half of 2023. We'll take your phone calls, answer your questions, and so much more. So make sure you put next Tuesday night show into your calendar. Now remember, if you have a stock that you want us to look at, or you have a burning question, then send an email to info@wealthwithin.com.au and watch next Tuesday night show for your answer. Also, give us a big thumbs up by liking the show, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you comment below this video about what was your favourite stock from tonight's show. Now it's time to say goodbye to our viewers on YouTube. We do hope you enjoyed what we presented today. For those watching on talkingwealth.com, stay tuned as we've got some bonus content for you. As always, thank you for joining us. For now, goodbye, good luck and good trading.